Hello, my name is Tracy, and I just wanted to talk to you about a medication that I received by the neurologist for migraines, and my experience with it has not been good, okay? The medication was called Imitrex, 100 milligrams, and the very first time I took it, I literally thought that I was having a heart attack, okay? Literally thought. Like my chest started hurting, it was getting tight, my throat became tight, I was sweating, I was hot, I was cold, and then I lost my ability to breathe. So I was sitting outside for about 2 or 3 hours, huffing and puffing, gasping for air, and praying to Jesus, because I did not think that I was going to make it out of that. However, I was able to be calmed down enough. But the next day rolls around, and I still feel like I have a hand around my throat where I'm barely breathing. So, of course, it induced a panic attack. So the next day, I had another breathing spell. And of course, I had my aunt come over and help me out, which I should have went to the emergency room. But I was here alone with my kids, and I just couldn't up and leave them. So I never did get to go to the emergency room that day. Well, after I finally calmed down again, I just had to accept the fact that my breathing's not ever going to be the same. So I had to keep myself on a level head. I even wore a turtleneck just so I could trick my mind into thinking that this is normal. Okay, so after that, everything was okay, yada yada yada. I went to an emergency room visit the first time, and because I had another episode. Okay, this one was bad. Throat still feeling like either there's something in it, it's numb, I can't breathe, gasping for air, I can't get a full thing of breath. I go to that emergency room, and he thought that I was having an allergic reaction, so he gave me a steroid shot. I was able to feel like I could breathe again because it opened my airwaves, and then I went home. Okay, and I was okay for the next day, and I even slept that night. Well, lo and behold, as soon as that steroid shot wore out of my body, I was back in the emergency room again, feeling the same way. I couldn't breathe. I was short of breath. My throat was hurting. That doctor thought that I had pharyngitis. He thought that my throat was swelled up. He seen the inflamed lymph nodes that it was causing. He said there was mucus going from the back of my head and back of my ears all the way down my throat. So I was like, oh great, awesome. Figured it out. I just had some kind of flu, cold, something that was major. He gave me a 500 milligram Rocephin shot, and then a steroid shot, and then a prescription for steroid pills. Okay? So, I went home, took that, and I felt pretty decent. And I decided that I was going to talk to my regular doctor. So I got to my regular doctor, and then she pretty much made it out like it was a joke. I told her about the Imitrex that I took, and she's like, honey, she's like, you're having panic attacks. She said, you're not going to die. You're okay, because if there was anything wrong, you would be dead right now. So she gave me a small EKG, and my heart EKG looked fine, and she didn't even look at my throat. She told me that it was all in my head. So right now I'm at this point of thinking, is it all in my head, or did it do something to me? Did it physically or emotionally do something to me? Okay, so I leave, go home, and the next night happened again. I felt like I couldn't breathe, the steroid pill, it was only 20 milligrams, so it wasn't much. Not like the shot was. I went to the ER again, and this time they suspected that maybe I was a drug head because, I've been there 3 times, but in all reality, I was just wanting to know what was wrong with me. Yeah, not that I'm a drug head, because I passed that test. I did a urine test for the doctor so I could prove that I wasn't, on drugs or anything. And then he did a chest x-ray, and it looked clear, like there was no fluid in my lungs or what have you. He got the nurse to come and talk to me and tell me that I was having a panic attack and that I needed to go to the mental health center and see somebody about my anxiety and depression because it was severe. And yes, I've had anxiety all my life, and I've had a couple panic attacks, but do they last 12 hours? No, they do not. They do not keep happening like that. They do not last 12 hours, okay? But anyways, that's what he told me. He had the nurse circle the suicide hotline number and told me that if I felt that way again to call the phone number. So pretty much he's thinking that I'm suicidal, and I'm not, because if I was, I wouldn't have went there to get help. So I'm no longer going back to the hospital. And last night I went to bed because I had, the steroid pill, so I felt okay. And I had been pretty much shortly breathing. My throat is I can no longer feel it. Okay, I know there's oxygen going in, but I could scratch the shit out of my throat and I could touch it and it's numb. Okay, my throat has no feeling in it whatsoever. So as long as I keep in my head that I'm still breathing, I just am not able to feel it. Okay. So last night I woke up in the middle of the night, of course, and I had an attack. And the attack it woke me out of my sleep. I had to sit in the living room for 3.5 hours, and I only got 2 hours of sleep. So when I did sleep, I had to make sure that I was sitting straight up, because when I laid down, it seemed like I was suffocating to death and kept waking up screaming over and over and over. Okay, so if you have any ideas what this could be, I'm going through some testing at my